that you may not be that much willing to talk about, which is what's going on in your state, the state of New York. And in the New York City, we had an election, and the outcome was Zohran Mamdani. He is a Muslim immigrants immigrant, and he's socialist, and he said that he's going to arrest Netanyahu if he goes to New York. Many issues, and with this, with his sort of view toward the things in New York, we know that many people in New York, Jews, supported him, and it shows that 75% of the people below 30 years old, they voted for him, which is huge in my opinion for a city like New York City. What is happening in the New York City that could influence the future of the Democratic Party?
Look, all I know is that there was a fair and free election held, and the people of New York City voted for a man who was qualified to be mayor legally. I don't give a damn if he's an immigrant. I don't give a damn about anything about him. He's a U.S. citizen and meets the qualifications, and he won. So hooray! People vote people in, and then they get to hold them to account. If you don't like him, where were the alternatives? Why could the best they come up with is Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo? You really telling me a city of 12.5 million people could only come up with those two guys to oppose this guy? I mean, if you don't like him, come up with somebody better. Who else did you want there? A failed governor? An aging guardian angel? So no, I mean, I'm fed up with people who condemn this guy. Are his politics my politics? Nope. Would I have voted for him? Probably not. But he is allowed to run for mayor, and the majority of people in New York City voted for him. The vast majority of people in New York City voted for him. And the last time I checked, in a representative democracy, that's what counts. So I'm not worried about this. I mean, New York mayors have famously found out that the citizens of New York aren't quiet when they're not happy. And if this guy fails to deliver on his promises, he's not going to have an easy time. So good luck to him. I hope he gives the citizens of New York City everything they wanted, everything they expected. But we'll see. He wouldn't be the first failure of a mayor, and he wouldn't be the first successful mayor. Mayors come and go. I can't get upset when the people of the United States vote for somebody and put them into office. As long as it's a fair and free election, it means it's a battleground of ideas, and he had the best ideas out there. At least the ones that resonated with the population that mattered, which is the voting population of New York City. That's how democracy works. If I don't like it, then golly gee, why don't I run against them next time or find somebody who will? That's it. I'm not worried about any of this. I'm really not. I don't lose any sleep over this.
Yeah. And let's go to what's going on between the United States and Russia. We know that the president of the United States said that during the interview he had on 60 Minutes, he said that Russia and China are testing nuclear bombs, and some sort of nuclear tests they're doing, and they're not they don't say anything about it. Behind the scene, they're doing this, secretly they're doing this, which in the same interview, they showed the commander and who had the exact he knew what's going on with Russia and China with the case of testing nuclear. I don't remember his name, but he said that there is no evidence that Russia and China are testing nuclear bombs. And today, Vladimir Putin has responded to Donald Trump's nuclear rhetoric, calling it a serious issue. He instructed Russia's Security Council and defense agencies to analyze U.S. statements and prepare proposals on possible nuclear test readiness. What's going on, Scott? I think you are one of the, very qualified characters or person to talk about these issues when it comes to the armed control, nuclear bombs, and nuclear issues. What's your take on that?
My take is that the United States of America is governed by one of the dumbest men in the world, who doesn't understand the power of words. And before he speaks on topics such as this, he should probably get better briefed. This is a man who was told that the Russians had carried out 2 nuclear tests, one of the Burevestnik nuclear-powered cruise missile and the other of the Poseidon nuclear-powered underwater drone. Both of these are, nuclear capable, meaning they can carry nuclear warheads. But the tests were of the nuclear propulsion systems. And so, he somehow in his brain decided that he was going to call these nuclear weapons tests. No, they're tests of nuclear delivery vehicles that happen to be nuclear powered. Maybe that's just too many nuclears for Trump's brain to handle. But the bottom line is, he spoke out and said, they're doing tests, so I'm going to order tests. Now, here's the important part. He said, I'm going to order the Secretary of War, that would be Pete Hegseth, to carry out a nuclear weapons test similar to what was done. And everybody freaked out and thought, oh my God, that means the United States is going to go and violate the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and start testing, actual nuclear warheads. And yet today, the Secretary of War carried out his instructions. They tested a Minuteman III missile without a warhead. They tested the delivery system, very similar to what the tests that were done by, but we do this all the time. This isn't the first Minuteman III test this year. We've tested a whole range of Trident D5s, delivery systems, and it should not raise anybody's eyebrows. It shouldn't get anybody's pulse up. But then he turns around and he says things like, we know the Russians are testing in secret. We know the Chinese are testing in secret. Well, the secrecy are the tests of their missiles. Of course, they're secret. I mean, Russia's like a broadcast that, hey, today we're going to flight test at Burevestnik, although apparently a NATO ship was monitoring the test and the Russians didn't do anything to disguise it. But your words matter. And so now you're the Russians and you have to be pragmatic. You have to say, is this guy just stupid? The answer, of course, is an unqualified yes. But you can't run your policy based upon, we're just interpreting his words as stupidity. His words could also be interpreted to be that the United States believes that Russia and China are carrying out secret nuclear weapons tests, and therefore the United States must be prepared to carry out tests of its own. But if that's the case, then it isn't the Secretary of War that's going to handle that. It'll be a completely different American agency responsible for the upkeep of nuclear weapons, and the Department of Energy. And there's no evidence that we are getting ready to do a nuclear test, and there's no evidence that the Russians or the Chinese have been doing or getting ready. All countries do what are known as subcritical testing. That is, we test the nuclear device model in a manner that tests everything except the actual fission event. We don't get that fission event, and then we extrapolate based upon data whether or not the weapon would work, etc. Everybody does that, and that is in compliance with the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. But now the Russians are listening to the president's word. You see, the Russian president told his foreign ministry and intelligence services and defense department to assess what the president's saying. Hey, guys, if you're watching this show, I just told you what I think it is. Don't panic. This is just Trump being Trump. Sorry about that. But, the other thing people need to understand is that the United States Congress is funded every year the Department of Energy to be prepared to resume nuclear testing on short notice if needed. And there's a lot of pressure here in the United States for the U.S. government to withdraw from the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and begin testing of nuclear weapons designs. Our bombs are old designs, and many of these bombs have to be all the bombs eventually have to be maintained over time. They're not just the plutonium pits which have to be reworked and upgraded over time, but there's also other nuclear isotopes that are involved in this that lose potency over time, and certain gases have to be reinserted in certain quantities. It a weapon has to be maintained, and if you want a nuclear deterrent system, you have to be assured that the weapons will work as designed, or else, because if you're not assured, the enemy's not going to be assured. And if they think your weapons aren't going to work, you lose that edge. And so there are many people saying, look, our weapons are so old, we need to do some testing, limited testing, just to confirm that what we're doing works. The weapons worked as designed. Maybe we have some new weapons that we'd like to test, the W76-2 low yield nuclear warhead. We'd like to test that to confirm that works as advertised. But so far, the treaty is held. Our commitment to no nuclear testing stands, and I believe it stands to this day. I don't believe the president has given any direction to anybody involved in actual nuclear weapons testing to begin to prepare for a nuclear weapons test. He simply, because he's dumber than dirt, he uses words that have meanings that he doesn't mean to impart. That's what I think is going on here.
Scott, how did we get here? You remember we talked about Tulsi Gabbard. It seems to me that she's isolated within the Trump administration. Nobody cares about what she's talking about. Any issue, domestic issue, foreign issue. What is that, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, we're dealing with a president that doesn't understand effective staff work and doesn't understand what it means to be part of a team. He envisions himself as the captain of a team that he doesn't trust. He only trusts himself or a handful of people around him. Tulsi Gabbard was made the director of national intelligence, but we saw early on in her tenure that, he doesn't heed her advice when she spoke to him about Iran, for instance, and their nuclear program. And I would imagine that today, when she speaks about other issues like Venezuela or Russia and nuclear weapons, that he's not heeding that as well, that he listens to a tighter inner circle that she's not part of. It appears that he listens more to the director of the CIA, who is, more politically aligned with Trump. He listens more to Marco Rubio, which I just don't understand, because Rubio hates him with a passion and despises him. And yet he's empowered Rubio not just as a Secretary of State, but as the National Security Advisor, which means Rubio runs honcho over all of these policy issues. He listens to, Sebastian Gorka. He listens to, Keith Kellogg. The person he should be listening to is the person that's empowered by law to talk to him. The presidential daily briefing is done by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, not by the CIA. And so it's Tulsi Gabbard that is the one who is supposed to be providing him with the daily dose of information. But this president has boxed her out, and she has a specific politicized job to do, which is to go back and put her focus on the 2016 Russiagate scandal, and she's doing that job very well. But she's not. The job of the director of national intelligence isn't that of a forensic investigator. They should be looking forward, looking into the future, providing the president with the best intelligence possible about the world we live in. And unfortunately, the person that's best positioned to do that isn't being allowed to do that.